it's me, it's PMFM, and this is another school video. I'm at school late grading papers because tomorrow is the last day of the quarter, which means I really have to get everything graded soon. And I'm trying to stay late today because this weekend is WrestleMania weekend. Friday is going to be NXT TakeOver, super excited, and Sunday is going to be WrestleMania. So definitely expect a wrestling-related video next. That said, today what I want to talk about is cycles and mind loops. This is partly inspired by my last video that past me made, because it was about the idea of budgeting, about the idea that I often will see that I have a surplus of money, that I've got enough money that I can splurge on something, and I'll buy something nice, I'll treat myself, and then what I'll end up doing is just continuing to do that in a really, I guess I wouldn't go so far as to say unhealthy, but in a way that is not sustainable, and so I have to get myself out of that cycle. I have to make sure I notice that. The thing is that I do that a lot in my life. I get into habits really easily. I think probably everyone does. But it's part of the reason I want to do this project, is because I want to think about the cycles that I'm getting in that maybe I'm not even noticing because they're not condensed, they're larger. Because those are the cycles that are hard to spot. But a couple nights ago, I noticed that I had gotten myself into a very different type of cycle. First PMFM sneezed. Excuse me. We're not cutting. We're not starting over. That's just what happens sometimes. So I noticed a couple nights ago that I'd gotten myself into a very different type of cycle, one that is genuinely unhealthy. But that happens to me every so often. It's to do with my anxiety, and I wouldn't say that I have horrible anxiety. Certainly not like clinical anxiety disorder or anything. But I do get into these anxiety loops. And specifically what happened a couple nights ago is I was thinking about what I wanted to do for my classes for the next couple of days. Because today I was out of my class for half the day observing other teachers so I can learn from them. And yesterday I had a conference during my planning period with my principal because he had recently observed me and we wanted to talk about that. And so what that meant was that I really needed to know exactly what I was doing yesterday and today. Before I came to school, I needed to know exactly what I was doing. And I often come to school with a general idea of what I'm doing. And then I hammer out the specifics at school during my second period plan. And I wasn't able to do that for those 2 days, and I really needed to know exactly what I was going to do, and it was going to make the most sense to plan it all out at once. And what happened is that I had this idea in my head of what I was going to do, and I would think about it, I would get the plan, and then I'd start to write, and I would forget it. And then I'd have to think about it again, and then I'd start to write, and I would forget it. And I just wasn't able to hold the information in my head. And I really started to get anxious about it, and I saw myself starting to have a small anxiety attack of just not being useful in any way. And so I had to take a little break from it and then go back and use the strategy of breaking it down a little bit, to not try to plan it all out at once and figure out what I was going to do, but to write myself an outline first, and then in more details chunk by chunk. And that worked. And I got out of it, but I spent probably an hour being really unhealthy, and then I had to take a break for about an hour, and then I got back to it. And that's just a thing that happens to me every so often when I'm planning things. And it's kind of ironic because I love to plan things. I will sometimes plan things out far too much. I'll spend time planning for things that just probably aren't going to happen because my brain likes order. My brain likes to sort things, and planning things is a way to do that. But sometimes my brain freaks out and stops being able to put those things in order. Yeah, I guess today I'm kind of just complaining and explaining a bad thing about myself without really having any insight today. I just wanted to talk about it, I guess. I was hoping that by the time I got to the end of the conversation that I would have some insight, and that hasn't come, and that's okay, because it would have been kind of a miracle if it had. But hey, maybe, future me, in a year, you've had some amazing insight. Have you? Probably not. You're probably just continuing to deal with it. You'll probably just continue to deal with it for the rest of your life, and that's fine. People have lots of small, minor problems that they continue to deal with for the rest of your life. Is that what's going on? Or have you figured out something to get yourself around those things? Maybe you're planning out your schedule a lot more. Maybe just the fact that you've taught for a year means that you don't have to come to school with only a rough idea of what you are doing. How's the future going?